his deck. Looking at this next pack.
Daily Regimen, that's an enchantment that I guess can do all right things. Distant Melody. That was a card that was quite interesting when it came out. There was a lot of talk on the forums. The kind of card is like, is this useless, or is this amazing, or is it just somewhere in between?
Yep.
He takes it, so I guess that'll make his deck.
The Distant Melody is something that we'll have to see. As I said before, John really loves drawing cards. Some people came out early and said that card was real good. I was one of those individuals. I think since then I've kind of tamed down a little bit on that. It's very good in the elf decks where you can make a lot of tokens. In John's deck, going first, 1, 2, 3, 4 drops over the first couple turns, then untapping and refilling your hand.
It's lock and reload, isn't it?
Yep, absolutely. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that make John's deck. That's exactly the type of card he likes.
As you say, he really gives nothing away at all. I'd be cartwheeling around about now, but that's only me.
Yep, Nikolai Herzog, when I was talking to him during the Top 8 get-together yesterday, said that one of the things he really appreciates about his ability to play Magic is that he gets a lot of reads on his opponent, and one of the players he said that does it much better than he does is John Finkel, none other than. And that makes sense considering John's background with the game for so long.
So what have we got next? Here we go. That's a Shinewind, Latchkey Fairy. Nice flyer. And not a lot else.
No.
So I guess that's going to be the Latchkey Fairy.
Potentially, yeah. Latchkey Fairy you prefer in the blue-black rogue type strategy where you can play it for cheaper and get the card to replace itself. But, a 3-1 flyer is a 3-1 flyer, and if you're just trying to get there in the air, sometimes that's just fine.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the kind of thing the deck is going to look to get their opponent to 5, 6 life and then go, okay, you've plugged up the ground, here's a Balloonist, or here's something like a Latchkey Fairy. The final finisher, really.
Yep, moves the Rage Forger to the front, trying to check potentially see if he's got any creatures that would work with that, or whether he wants to prevent his opponents from having it. But it's going to take the Latchkey Fairy there. Don't know if we'll see that in his deck, but again, it is a 3-1 flyer.
Something we haven't seen yet in any of the packs that have reached him is a Burrington Bombardier, which is a great card for the Kithkin archetype, because it essentially, just by existing, whether or not it's in the deck, means that you get a free hit on turn 3, because you can't sensibly block. That's Cloak and Dagger. That's a potential speed boost to the deck as well.
Absolutely, yep. And it's a pretty weak pack there for John. Not a whole lot to look at. But the Cloak and Dagger, even though he's not playing Rogues, could potentially be good with him. He'd probably prefer Veterans Armaments. In fact, I know he'd prefer Veterans Armaments. But we're looking at Disperse. That's what he's going to wind up taking. Yep. And he's passing some solid Rogue cards. So if there's a Rogue player or drafter at the table, then they might be in luck.
All right.
Mosquito Guide, Idyllic Tutor. You see that white card in that Idyllic Tutor, and you think, there's another pick here, but
no, there really isn't.
That's more of a constructed card. Going to take the Mosquito Guard. Don't know if we'll see him play that, but I have seen more than I thought this weekend. It does reinforce. It does hit the turn 1 play, and then allows you to Kinsbale Skirmisher on turn 2 for effects. So
yeah, Nick Eisel and Tiago Chan, they rated Idyllic Tutor somewhere around the 0 mark, I believe, out of 10 for playability and limited.
Guys at this level aren't going to be rare drafting, so he'll pass that. There's an Ink Dissolver turn 2 drop. He's looking at the Shield Bearers. Now the Dissolver would allow him to have another bear added to his arsenal, and it would, more importantly, prevent Ming Shi from getting it, which could be a relevant point. He is going to take that. Okay,
does Finkel know what Ming Shi's doing? Does he have any sense of what may be waiting on his left?
It's always tough to say for certain, but I'm sure he is aware that someone on the left is picking up those cards because he's not seeing them.
Sure.
So whether or not he's got it pegged as being the guy exactly, being Ming Shi,
sure,
we can't tell. But
okay, Graceful Reprieve, not very exciting. Yeah, I guess Finkel would have noticed that nothing came back the other way. So
yeah,
I guess that means that Ming is going to be, or Ming or possibly one further round Marcio are going to be cutting.
Oh, there's an interesting pick. He was going to take the Prickly Bogart, so the Rogue's Fate Mage couldn't have it. Wound up taking the 5-drop Burrington Bombardiers. Got the Shinewind there. Shinewind is a card that I like having at least one of in my board, especially when you're going to be playing 5 games. I was talking with Chris Lockman and Jacob Van Lunen earlier, and they said it's important to look at the sideboard more importantly when you're drafting for that many games.
All right, well, the 8 players are there. They are about to be taken away from the feature match area, and they're going to go off and build their decks.
We're going to be looking at John's deck in just a second. And I got to say, Rich, after that draft, I think he came out pretty solidly. I'm not sure that's exactly the type of deck that he wants, but I think it was pretty solid for what he got. He did get the Surge. He got tons of 2-drops, got a couple Flyers, got the Wise and Send, even got a couple removal spells. Really, he's got a solid piece of work there.
Now, on the face of it, if you'd come in before the draft and said, what will John Finkel draft, you would have guessed that he would have gone for some kind of controlling affair.
Yeah, I think that's probably what you would have taken, but you would have been safest saying John Finkel's going to draft blue. I mean, that's what he's been famous for, and he actually, of course, did that. We saw him do that. Even if he's drafting a blue aggressive deck or just using the blue as the splash, he just loves drawing those extra cards. And the reason is because he's such a great player and so much better than even the competition in this top 8, not specifically all of them, but just so very, very good that the more decisions he can create for his opponent, the more likely they are to make mistakes and the more likely he is to be able to capitalize on them. And, of course, the more cards he draws, the more decisions he puts them to. So it's no surprise to see him do that.
Okay, so that's John Finkel's draft. We're pretty excited by that. Let's get down onto the floor and have a word with Scott Johns, who's been looking at some of the other stories within the draft. So, Scott, down on the floor, what do you got for us?
Hey guys, so as I was getting the chance to watch a lot of the tables around this a lot of the chairs going around here, this is an absolutely fascinating draft. You know, we're watching this from the perspective of John Finkel, and so often from any one given player's perspective, it's all about what's coming downstream, right? It's what's happening on the right. Well, Pasquale is drafting red-black, at last I looked, and to his right is Nikolai, who's drafting trees with some L's. So he's mostly green with a little bit of black and maybe a little bit of red. So there's almost none of what John was drafting all the way around for at least 2 chairs on the right. But on the left, it's fascinating because Ming-Chi opened that Drowner's Secrets and then took a Drowner's Secrets. It's almost like he's got John Finkel Bizarro World deck, where in another world, John Finkel could have almost that exact same deck, right?
Absolutely. And we wondered whether he would take Drowner's Secrets from that opening pack. The fact that Ming-Chi went, in for a penny, in for a pound, we'll take the uncommon now. Drowner not necessarily that popular, Scott, and yet, there we go, I get rewarded straight away. I mean, he must have been so excited to get the second one instantly. You're hoping that, you know, maybe I might get one in pack 2 if I'm lucky, but instead, here we go. Pick 1, Drowner. Pick 2, Drowner. I'm in business.
Yeah, and he didn't look through that pack very long. And one of the other interesting things, I mean, this shows all the, you know, ripple effect through the whole draft. You know, John had a Maul Drifter in that first pack. That's one of the absolute top cards people talk about. If that Maul Drifter had been there, how much closer would it have been for that Drowner's Secrets to maybe be the pick?
Sure.
Who knows?
Sure. Scott, did you see how many people or how many of the top Merfolk cards?
Okay, what we're going to do, we're just going to quieten things down just for a moment because it turns out that in the hall we've got some exciting technical issues once again. So we're going to stop talking about specific cards, talk a little bit more about the players again. John Finkel then, we're quite happy with that draft. Let's take a little more look at Guillaume Waffatapa, the Frenchman. Now, an outstanding player of Constructed. Is it that surprising to see him in a limited top 8?
No, and as I said before, if you look at the type of players that he's drafting with, working with the